Hello. Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Leanne Lucas, and I have a special guest today, Mr. Brandon Smith, who is a employee of Facebook and a very, very good friend of mine. And asked him to come to class to speak about what he does at Facebook and a little bit about Facebook, and which connects to what our major project is for this class. And so we're going to have a little conversation here. And so for you all to sit in and listen in. All right. Well, welcome, Brandon.
Thank you, Leanne. Good to see you as always.
Nice to see you
Last
too.
good to virtually see y'all.
I know. It's great, right?
Good, it's very good.
So tell us how you got to Facebook.
This is a great question. People ask me this all the time. So I've been at Facebook since August 2016. I've been in corporate America almost 10 years now, worked for 3 different companies, 2 before I came to Facebook. And my journey to Facebook was a bit unique, I would say. A lot of people end up coming in with tech experience, but I happen to be one of the few that was blessed to not need tech experience to get here. So just
Okay.
before I got to Facebook, I was in my second job at a healthcare company doing retail sales. And specifically, I was doing consumer insights. And so what we would do in this particular role is we would do what we would call focus groups, where you would talk to consumers about their shopping experience in grocery stores like Walmart, Target, Kroger, and even online like Amazon. And we would collect all these insights from these focus groups. And
Mm-hmm.
then we would take them to what's called our category management teams, who are employees of our company, but sit in the local offices of the major companies like Walmart, Target, Kroger. So they are an extension of our sales team. So we would say, hey, here's what's going on in performance nutrition, because that's the department that I work with. So here's what's going on in the category. Here's what you need to tell the buyer at Walmart about what's going on and what we can suggest to them for our products that we sell. Then I would take these same insights, take them back to our brand team and say, hey, here's what's going on across all the retailers in the industry. Um, let's say energy gels are very hot in performance nutrition at the time. And so we need to be thinking about making a energy gel to compete with the other big brands like Premier Protein, Optimum Nutrition, things of that nature.
Okay.
So to answer your question, how did I get to Facebook? It was really a transfer of skills. So I'd done that role for about a year and a half. And there was an account management role that opened up in Texas, where we live now, my wife and I. And I ended up just taking all of my skills from that experience and applying to a role that was very transferable. And it's history from there. So
Very
that's the
cool.
really transferable skills.
Yeah, I think that's a very important piece to talk about, kind of transferable skills, because a lot of times when we graduate from college or we graduate from our skills program, that we don't realize how much skill set we have.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we just focus on what the major was and what we learned, but
Yeah.
kind of expanding it to other aspects of what possible jobs we can do. And a lot of people think only if you work at Facebook, you have some kind of digital background or computer tech background, and that's not always the case.
Not at all. I happened by chance to have a little bit of experience with creating ads. Like I spent like $2 making an ad before I got to Facebook, but I had done that like 4 years before I had applied. So like that is a complete misnomer that you have to have ad experience to work in advertising. In many cases, this is one where like you just have to have grit and some sort of transferable skills. If you can narrate directionally what you understand from your current experience, you can definitely jump over. So I knew little to nothing about Facebook from an ads perspective before I came to this to my first role. I learned everything on the go. So gotta
So
believe in yourself. That's for sure.
exactly, with COVID-19, how has your workplace changed?
Oh my gosh, Leanne, everything has changed. So well, we have 3 offices in Austin, and it's over 20 plus departments, and everybody works from home now. I think we've had our offices shut since March. I remember that was the last day that I went to the office, and they haven't opened them up since. You can come in and get things from the office, but everybody's figuring out how to work from home. And so one of the things that um, the leadership team at Facebook did is everybody got at least $1,000 to help build their home office. We didn't have to keep track of how you spent the money. It was just like an in-kind gift. That's tax, of course, but everybody had to figure out their setup, right? So some people need dual screens. Like if you're an engineer, you might need dual screens to work. You might need Portal. So we own Portal as well. So it was just like a video conferencing hardware. So everybody got Portals if you want to use them. So we just had to figure out a different way to communicate and how to operate as well. So you see a lot of folks, especially if you're a parent, like I have 2 direct reports on my team who are parents. One of them has a 2 and a 4-year-old, and then another one has a newborn. And so another thing that's changed about work is like we have to be you get to see what people are juggling in their real lives and in their work lives, like all at the same time. So if you're a parent, going back to what I was about to say, you have to be, in some cases, a teacher, a parent, a disciplinarian, maybe even a spouse and an employee all within 8 hours. So we end up as a leadership team, like if you are a manager, you have to be very, very patient with your people in terms of like how they're juggling a lot of different things. I would even say you have to give yourself grace and not expect to maybe even perform at the same level that you were when you were in the office. I'll use myself as an example. Like I would have a very high gear. Like I say I'm at like a 10 out of 10 when I'm at work, but it's honestly taking me months to get back to that gear. I think it's up until maybe the last month and a half where I feel like I have that flow that I had when I was in the office, but it literally took me 4 to 5 months to find that gear and that inspiration again. So I think in all, like we've had to change functionally how we work and then how we communicate with each other as well, and just give everybody grace as they figure out this new normal that we're in of COVID.
I think that's a very important and key point in terms of that pivot. You know, we're all pivoting in terms of kind of where we are. How is working for Facebook in terms of a culture?
Oh, it's amazing. It's the best job I've ever had, no question. But I'll give you more of the why. So I worked, before I mentioned, I worked at a healthcare company before Facebook. And before that, I worked at a greeting card company. And both of these companies are market leaders. They've been around since early 1900s. And when you get to that place in a particular industry, you can often be very complacent. You can also be afraid of innovation as well. Let's zoom into healthcare. Like you're not going to find like pomegranate spiced Similac, right? Like it's just not going to happen because like there are children's lives on the line, right? And so I learned that I had to place myself at a company that believed in the things that I believed in and had the same wavelength to operate the same way. And one of those, one part of my creed in terms of my career philosophy is I wanted to go to a place that loved people and they demonstrated it through action. And Facebook does that. Like it's built into the fabric of what the company is. It helps that like we are a platform that where our mission is to give people the power to build community, but we do it in-house as well with the employees. So I'll give you a few tangible examples of how this manifests in real life. So the biggest one is we have these things called ERGs, or employee resource groups. So it is where you can find people who are like you or have similar interests to you. So some of the major ERGs are Black at, so that is people who have an affinity to the African-American experience. You have Women at, so people who are women or associate to women. You have Latin at, you have Veterans at, you have Pride at. So all these major points of identity usually have some sort of correlated ERG or employee resource group. The other cool thing within that is many ERGs have like subgroups under them. So within within Black at, there's Black men at, there's Black women at, there's Afro Black at, there's a lot of different, or Black Pride at, there's a lot of different subsidiaries, if you will, because people are intersectional, right? So like imagine if you are a Black gay woman, there's like at least 4 groups based on what I just said that you can be a part of. Well, I'm sorry, or at least 3. So it's awesome that we have these dedicated spaces where we can commune, and the company reinforces what we believe in. So like every single group has an executive sponsor. So the sponsor for Black at is the chief revenue officer for the company. And so you have these senior leaders who like, you know, we share trends, we share themes. They advocate for us to get budget for events. And so everything is just reinforced from a top-down leadership perspective. And the reason why I started the story talking about my other two companies is that it was a complete opposite from those other places. Like we would have to fight to wear jeans on Friday, let alone fight to see upward matriculation of Black people, right? It was a harder conversation. And so I needed to jump to a place that I could see that diversity and inclusion specifically, because diversity is, being invited to the dance. Inclusion is being asked to dance, right? So this is
Correct.
Inclusion is very much at the fabric of what Facebook believes in from a product perspective and an employee perspective. And that's ERGs is one of many ways that we do that.
That's fantastic. That gives us a kind of an insight in terms of kind of the inner workings, because Facebook has had some press lately about kind of their stance. So, it's always a different story as on the ground employees versus kind of CEO, what board of directors are talking about. And I think it's always good to hear that aspect. Now, I told you my students have this project that they're doing, and I sent you some of the questions, and I know we want to go to target in on 2 areas. So let's start there.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. So the first question is, do you have them in front of you? Because I don't have them in front of me.
All right. I can go bring them back up.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll jump back to my email. I'll see if we can find it real quick.
Okay. But while you're doing that, it's really, like I said before, it's really nice to hear about kind of the inner workings of Facebook. I've been looking at workplace and how COVID has changed the workplace, because I'm also interested in kind of COVID-19, because I teach another class related to COVID-19. Yeah. And industrial organizational psychologists, I don't know if you all have any on staff labeled as such at Facebook. But these are the individuals like human factors workers, human factors aspects, which in terms of would set up the whole workplace, ergonomics for the workplace, how groups are, cubicles, workspace are created to promote whatever the goal and objective of the company is. And I think human factors psychologists, human factors engineers are really going to be looking at that aspect of workplace as people sometimes come back to work. A digital platform company may never get back to the levels that you were at before. So that's kind of an interesting perspective or prospect, really.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, you mentioned the word ergonomics. We definitely have an ergonomics team that I definitely took advantage of. I actually zoomed back to when we were in the office, and this was like one of the very impressive things about Facebook is when you have the capital that we have, you can invest in a lot of different things, right? So I was impressed within my first few months of working at Facebook. People had these really nice chairs with the back supports, and I was like, how did you do that? And they were like, oh, just go to the ergonomics team and ask them to set up a session. So I did that. Someone from the ergonomics teams comes out. They check your posture. They check how you sit at your desk. They say, do you have any major ailments? They try to model how you sit in a typical work environment over your 8 hours. And they say, based on this, here's my recommendation of what you need. So the person I work with said, you definitely slouch a little bit, because I definitely am chill mode at all times. I'm looking good for you right now, Leanne, but I usually am chill mode at the house. So she had me get this special chair that fits the curvature of my back. We also had a floor set up so I could sit my feet up as I type. There was a wristband that she had me order where as I type, I can kind of sit my wrist there instead of just being on a computer. And think about how that becomes your new normal and affects some of the subtleties of work, where if I didn't have any of those, again, I'd be slouched, not with good posture. You have back issues, wrist issues, all those good things. And so I just appreciate the little things like ergonomics and how it shows up in real time. Everybody has access to it and it's free. So really cool.
That's really cool. I always tell my students I always look like I'm sniffing the computer because I have progressive no lens bifocals,
Yeah.
and you know the depending on how far away from the computer screen you are depends on
Mhm.
what you see. So sometimes it's
Yeah.
difficult. I do have some. I found my computer glasses the other day, so it's only 16 inches I can be away from the
Yeah.
screen. However, I'm like
Yeah.
I really need a new pair of computer glasses. So that's really cool to hear because that's what human factors, organizational, industrial organizational psychologists all have that kind of role. So, all
Yeah.
right, let's get to those two questions.
Sure. All right. So the first one that we had was describe how this company has become successful in supporting their employees through the work environment. I go back to ERGs, man. Like that's one of the most tangible examples that we have. So again, it's just these dedicated groups that you can join if you are affiliated. I rattled off a bunch of the major ones. So um, women at, Black at, Latin at, veterans at, pride at are a few. And all of them have subsidiary groups. But I'll throw another one at you that we just had this past week that really I remember when I had just joined Facebook around the time where this event happened. I was like, oh man, like this is it. So all the major groups that I just mentioned have what's called a leadership day. So Black at Leadership Day had started the year that I started at Facebook, 2016. And this is a day where all the Black employees across the company get to fly to headquarters for like 2 days of programming, all paid for by the company, hotel paid for, food paid for, catering paid for, everything's paid for. And then you get to all your, usually there's a guest speaker. So I can't remember who the guest speaker was the first year, but we definitely had folks like Viola Davis come in and speak. And it's a phenomenal day of getting to connect with people who look like you, especially if you are in an underserved group like Latin at or Black at. Our numbers from a diversity perspective are relatively low in tech, let alone Facebook. So getting to bring all the Black employees from around the world, literally. So I got good friends that are Black that live in Singapore. I got a fraternity brother that lives in Japan. I know a lot of folks in Dublin and in the London office. And so you get to see these people that you wouldn't see outside of VC or email in person, and everybody's Black, which is so dope. And so it's this warming feeling. I was like, wow, like they care that much that they would put money to let everybody fly. Like it's very costly, just as a headline, to fly from London to California, let alone business class. So to get the opportunity to do that and all investing in your people, I was like, oh man, that's all I needed to see. And that's just Black at. All the major ERGs get to do that. The other cool thing that I will add on to this concept of ERGs is we encourage allies to join as well. So I'm an ally of Women At. So Women At in Austin meets every month. I attend their monthly meetings, and it allows me to sit in and listen and understand the journey of women in the workplace as well, which is very different than the journey for men. And so given that we invest in all groups and allyship is important, like we are encouraged to go to our respective groups of interest and like just be there for support. And it's enriching for me as well, because ironically, when I started in my first team, 60% of my team was women. So I had 5 direct reports. So 3 out of 5 of them were women. And because of everything that I was sitting and learning in Women At, I was able to apply that in terms of like understanding their truth and understanding that all women's truths are different, which is really, really cool. But again, I was prepared for that because of what Women At offer for me as an ally. So that is definitely some more facets of what ERGs look like in practice for us.
That's very, very cool. Very, very cool. Because some of the talk behind the pandemic is that women losing women out of the workplace because of some of the demands of raising kids, managing
That's right.
households. So there will be really interesting to see, even from a psychological point of view, to see how that plays out in the future. Now, you talked about ERGs. Is there any other aspects beyond the ERGs that kind of tie into this, ideal kind of workplace? We talked about the workplace itself.
Mhm.
having these kind of specialized interest groups. Is there
Right.
any other aspect of Facebook that you could speak to?
Absolutely. So another favorite resource that we have for me is mental health support. So there's a company called Lyra that allows us to get free mental health consultation for us and our families, right? So I was able to get a therapist for the first time in my life in March, which was really cool. We've got you get 25 free sessions. And it's extended to your family as well. So my wife uses a therapist through Lyra, through my company benefits. And I'll zoom out and I'll talk about what that means from a workplace perspective and a cultural perspective. So as you and I know, mental health in the Black community is a very challenging topic. And a lot of it stems from our affiliation to the church and what the church means in the Black community. So if you are going through something, people say, hey, just pray on it. It'll be okay. Like, make sure you tithe. Are you going to church enough? But the truth is, like, we are people. And prayer does help, but a little extra help helps too. However, there are a lot of barriers around, there's cultural barriers, but then also financial barriers to mental health services as well. And so the minute you become an employee, you get access to Lyra benefits. And so, and now let's multiply that with COVID too, right? So like you're in home at the house all day, working, not getting to connect with people.
Exactly.
And that's a toll. And so from a management standpoint, I remember when COVID first started, we talked as a leadership team within my org and one of my directors said, hey, like, make sure you guys remind your team that the Lyra benefit is there for them to use. And so now switching over to the workplace perspective, we very much are what we call a high performance organization, which in practice means everybody like is giving their best at all times. Everybody wants the next promotion. They want the next promotion tomorrow. You want the best ratings. And as a byproduct of that, like, people are always finding the next thing. Can I get another project? Can I do a bit more work? So it is not very common for people to just find the easy way out at Facebook. Everybody's looking at the next way that they can give impact. But the challenge with that is you can get really burned out. Also keep in mind, we are like one of the biggest social media platforms in the world. And so you might work at Facebook or Instagram, and then when you get off of work, you back on Instagram again or Facebook again. So you're in this perpetual state of work all times if you can't find a balance. And so I think the mental health services are especially important for teams if you're working on like platform risk, or if you're looking at community engagement or behavior and people are doing malicious things on the platform, like abuse or suicides or things of that nature. That takes a toll on you. And so I'm grateful, and that's a very extreme case, but I'm grateful that we have in this high performance organization, we have this mental health service where you can jump out for a sec, like talk about what you're going through at work or beyond, get refueled, and then jump back in. So Lyra is definitely a benefit I really, really
That's
appreciate.
excellent. And I'm glad you brought that up. One, because we're a psychology class. Two,
Yeah.
It's so very important to have that support, and especially now. I mean, the support needed to be there anyway. And a lot of times companies do have what they call employee assistance programs. But it's even beyond employee assistance programs in terms of mental health support, like it sounds like what Facebook is doing. And I think an excellent point you make between Facebook and Instagram being social media platforms and working at a major social media platform, and then having your own social media social media accounts as well, and learning how to balance that, or knowing when to kind of shut it off or take a break. I think that's really, really great.
It's tough.
It is tough, because I know social media has kept me in touch with a lot of people that I can't see face to face. So it's a balance, and it's a part of our new normal and moving forward. So it's going to be very, very interesting, I say. So let's talk about a little bit about the second question you wanted to address as well. So.
Yes, our second question was, explain why the company is considered an ideal employer. There's a lot of components to this, Leanne, but I'll check off a few that come top of mind for me. One is, I think I always use the term, we create the wave. And what I mean by that is we have innovated the future of work in a lot of different ways, right? So we are in the social media space that is really nascent if you think about the history of social media. And we are the dominant player in that space. And I think it's exciting, especially as a millennial, based on my age, to be a part of the company that's building what the future is, right? So like Facebook is just as common as Kleenex, right? And while being in this nascent space, we are innovating at the same time, right? So you have Facebook, we bought Instagram. I think we already own Messenger already. We have WhatsApp. We acquire WhatsApp. We acquire Oculus, which is AR, VR. So we own this white space and continue to define the future. So I think that definitely makes us attractive. It's another reason why I think people love Tesla so much, is because they are about to create the future of automotive, right? So that's one component of what I believe makes us ideal. The second thing that I think makes us ideal is some of the benefits that I talked about earlier. So we talked about ERGs. Pay is like pretty good. We have benefits around transportation. So in Austin alone, just to make it tangible for you, we have free transportation on the bus systems. If I want to use that, they just launched a shuttle system that has like a number of different stops in the city. So if I don't want to take the bus, I can take Facebook specific shuttles that get me to work back and forth every day. Again, all of that is paid for. We get free breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single work day. This is when we were in the office. But think about how that affects you needing to cook dinner every day, right? When I go into the office, I don't have to think about, oh man, what am I going to eat for lunch? Everything's already prepared for already, and I don't have to pay for it out of my paycheck. We also have these things called micro kitchens within the office. So let's say I have a heavy meeting day and I can't get to a particular meeting. Sorry, I got somebody knocking at the door here. Till, we got somebody at the door. Another thing that I love about the office is our micro kitchens that we have. So in the event that I'm not able to take advantage of lunch because I have a heavy meeting day, we have these designated areas that usually will have fresh fruit, coffee, snacks, everything that you can imagine, just so I can get that quick refuel in between meetings and jump back in. So now think about what happens if you don't have that and you can't get to lunch. You end up being hungry. You are far from satiated, you're losing your focus, and you get burnt out. So I appreciate that as another benefit that we have that I take advantage of for sure in a heavy team that has heavy meetings. So
let me ask you this question, because I've heard that some companies have like nap pods where you could go, refresh yourself. I know all this has changed since people are working at home, but did you all have something like that?
Yeah, we did. We have in our office, or in the two offices that we have downtown, we had a meditation room. There was a nap room. There was a silent room. There was a yoga room as well, and even a multi-purpose room where it's like you have this amazing view of downtown Austin. You have the lake right next to us, and they would bring in like guest speakers to do special meditation, things of that nature. So yeah, we have all that good stuff, and it varies by office too, but many of them have at least a silent room, at least a silent room, maybe even a nap room too.
That's very cool. That's very cool. So, how, if students wanted to, start a career at Facebook, what would you suggest would be one of the things that a person who would be interested in working for Facebook do?
Yeah, this is a good one. Just like any multinational large corporation, there's a ton of different disciplines. You have product, engineering, diversity and inclusion, sales, almost every department you can think of. So the first thing that I would tell, if I was me, who I am right now, not at Facebook, but just with my style and the things that I know, I will be focusing on a specialty and getting really good at a specialty, whatever that thing is. So I just listed a bunch of different specialties before, but I think what mastering a specialty allows you to do is you become a subject matter expert in a very specific space, and you get what I call cycles, right? So like, let's say I want to go into social media or advertising. And you can start your own company doing consultation on social media, and you get a bunch of clients, and you do you build websites, or you focus on advertising. The more you get better at that, especially with something like advertising, specifically in the social media space, that is always changing with algorithms and then what users connect with, the deeper you get into your specialty, the more you're able to see these cycles, right? So if someone says like, what is the work that you've done? You could speak maybe, from a few different clients, from a few different industries, and a lot of different examples. I think that is knowing what I know now, like almost 10 years in the game, get good at one thing. And then when you get good at that one thing, you become indispensable, because when someone needs to call on you, you know exactly what to do. Or you don't have that fear of like, oh man, like I actually don't know what I'm doing. Like you lean on your reps and your cycles to say, okay, like when I built a website for this fitness club up the street, I remember that I used ABC, and you can apply that in real time. So that knowing what I know now, I will find a specialty and just dive deep. And then you just have to give yourself time. Like I definitely remember being very impatient in my younger years, like fresh out of undergrad. I thought my dream was to work at Nike. So I thought I was going to be a brand manager my first year out, be a director in 2 years, and then a VP in 3. It just doesn't work that way. But knowing what I know now, just get in, like find something to target, get your reps in, get your cycles in, and give it time. And before you know it, someone's going to be knocking at your door, but it's because you put the work in first.
Right. I think that's a very good point. And it's about subject matter experts, knowing your niche. And also, as a career person myself, knowing your niche, and then understanding that you always have to build upon that. You always have to stay relevant, current, and knowledgeable in that. Just getting that information and sitting with it doesn't serve you or benefit you. So most definitely.
Right.
So some parting last words for us. What would you tell us?
So one, I would say you guys are the future. And I think as a young person, and there's a bit of irony to this, is like social media has blinded young people to feel like they need to figure it out like tomorrow. And that's not the case. I would say you are the future, and probably the most resource generation of all time. So if there's anything that you wanted to do, like have the courage just to step out and do it. I'll give you a tangible example. I have never invested in my life up until this year when COVID started. And I was really afraid of it at first because I didn't grow up with a ton of money, and I didn't have anybody to teach me. And so when COVID hit, I was like, man, like, I don't know if what am I going to do with all this time? We don't know how long we're going to be here, right? But I had the courage to say, maybe I could do this, because I have this good thing called the internet that we pay for every month. And Google is free. So I decided just to jump in and learn. And I've since started an investment club with some of my fraternity brothers. And I'm doing an investment challenge with my cousins as we speak, teaching them everything that I've taught them, everything that I've learned. And so not only are you the most resource generation, like you are the truth, right? Like, everything you see on TikTok and a lot of these social media platforms are built around young people, because y'all are the future. Y'all know the vibes, the wave, right? And so lean on that truth and build your future. Life is very much a blank canvas for you to paint your own story. So use whatever watercolors, markers, lights, whatever you want to do. So be empowered at the fact that you are the wave and you are the future and you are the most resource generation of all time. So go out and be who you want to be.
Exactly. And we, even if we're not from this generation and in school during this generation, you become that generation because of the knowledge set that you're learning in this space and time. So that is very significant. I really appreciate you taking the time with me, Brandon, to talk about Facebook and your experiences, and you have enlightened my soul. I'm very happy to hear about the mental health piece, because I am a clinical psychologist, so anybody who's talking about mental health warms my soul. So that's great to hear. And you know, once again, thank you for the time. Very enlightening for us, and we will keep our eye on Facebook for sure.
For sure. Thank you for the time. It was great to be able to share a few stories, and hopefully this helps.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.